Hi makers, welcome back to my channel. It's Sierra with Sierra's Crafty Creations, and today we're going to be crocheting the Sunset Cardigan, which is modeled here by one of my great friends, Taylor from Taylorland Crochet. I will tag her in the description below so you can see all of her fun designs and her YouTube channel. But this is the cardigan that we're going to be making. It is a full-length open front cardigan that is nice and flowy, a little oversized, and just amazing to wear for spring and summer. So let's go ahead and jump into the materials that you're going to need for this top. Here are all the materials that I'll be using to create this cardigan. The Carron Cotton Angel Cakes. This is what I use to make up mine, but I will throw up a little graphic here to show you other yarn brands that are comparable to this that would work just as well, just in case you don't have these. These are sold at Michael's craft stores. As far as I know, that's the only place that they sell them. So I'll throw up some options for you, but this is a size 4 cotton blend acrylic, so it's 60% cotton, 40% acrylic. It says it's a size 4, but if you're using a different yarn, some of my suggestions are actually a size 3, just because this is on a thinner side of the size 4. But this is the yarn that I'm using, and you'll need an USL 8mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and if you have a measuring tape handy, you can definitely use it. And here's a diagram of the pieces of our cardigan. So the black outlined boxes are representing our front panels, and the pink rectangle in the back, that represents our back panel. And this just shows you where our armholes will be, where our shoulder seams will be, and where our neck opening will be. So it's our 3 pieces, our back panel, and then lined up on top we have our 2 front panels with a gap in the middle for our neck opening. And those red dots are going to be where we're going to seam these pieces together to complete our cardigan. So let's go ahead and jump into the pattern, and we're going to start with the back panel. So to start, we're going to create a slip knot. We're going to grab our crochet hook, insert into our loop here, and we're going to go ahead and start by chaining. And every size requires a different number of chains. Today I'm just going to be creating a sample swatch just to show you the stitches and how they're done, and then I'll be giving you the stitch count and the row count information for each size so that you can make it in whatever size that you want or need. So to start, you're going to create a chain, and we're going to do that by yarning over our hook and pulling through the loop that is already on our hook. So we're just going to take that yarn and pull it through this loop, and that's one chain. So you're going to grab your yarn, pull it through the loop on your hook, and pull it through, and that's your second chain. And you'll keep creating a chain until you create the correct number for your size, and I'll throw up a graphic of how many chains you'll need for each size. Once you've reached the number of chains that you need for your size, we're going to go ahead and move on to our foundation row, or row 1. So these are our chains here, and we're going to do a row of half double crochets as our first row. And to do that, we're going to yarn over our hook, and we're going to insert our hook into the second chain from our hook. So this is the first chain, and this is the second chain. So we're going to take our hook with our yarn over it, insert it into the second chain, grab your yarn in the back and pull through that chain that we just inserted through, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. And we're going to yarn over our hook again and pull through all 3 of those loops. And that's a half double crochet. And we're going to do that in every chain across. So yarn over your hook, insert into that very next chain, grab your yarn, pull it through that chain, and you'll have your 3 loops. Yarn over your hook and pull through all 3. And that's your second half double crochet. And we'll keep doing that all the way across for every size. And because we're using thinner yarn with a bigger hook, your stitches are going to look loose, and that's completely normal. That's how we want them to look. So go ahead and keep creating those half double crochets in each chain across. Alright, and I'm just meeting you guys at the end of the row of our first row to make sure that we're putting a half double crochet in the very last stitch there. So always a good thing to count your stitches at the end of the row just to make sure that you have all of them correctly. And this is how your first row will look. Like I said, those stitches will be pretty loose and open looking, and that is perfectly normal. Now we're gonna go to our second row, and to do that, we are going to chain one. And to chain one, we are going to take our yarn around our hook and pull through the loop already on our hook. So that creates a chain one, and then we are going to turn our work. And now we're going to jump into our shell stitches. Our shell stitches are going to be 2 rows, and those 2 rows are going to repeat over and over again to create our beautiful open shell stitches. So the first row of this will be creating a single crochet here in the very first stitch. So we're going to take our hook, insert it into this very first stitch here, grab our yarn, pull through, so you'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over your hook and pull through both loops, and that's a single crochet. And then we're going to yarn over our hook, and we're going to be creating double crochets, but we're going to skip a few stitches. So we're going to skip 1, 2, 3. So we're going to skip these next 3 stitches, insert our hook into the 4th stitch, then we're going to grab our yarn, pull through, you'll have 3 loops on your hook. And to create a double crochet, we're going to yarn over our hook, pull through these first 2 loops, and you'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over your hook again and pull through those 2. And that is a double crochet. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to place 7 double crochets total in the same stitch. So we're going to yarn over our hook, insert into that same stitch that we just went into, grab our yarn, pull through, yarn over our hook, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And that's our second double crochet. We're going to chain 1, create our 3rd double crochet, so yarn over, insert into that same stitch, grab your yarn, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. That's our 3rd one, chain 1, create our 4th double crochet, all in the same space. And we're going to be chaining 1 after each one here. That's our 4th one. We're going to work on our 5th one. Chain 1, yarn over, insert into the same stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2, chain 1, and now this is our 7th and final double crochet in the same space. So we're going to create that one. After our 7th double crochet, we are not going to chain 1. So this is what it will look like. It might look a little wavy, and that's okay because we're putting a lot of stitches all in the same space, but that's what it will look like for you. After our 7th double crochet, we're going to skip the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip those and create a single crochet in the 4th stitch. So you're going to insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull through, have 2 loops, yarn over your hook, pull through those 2, creating a single crochet. And that is our first shell stitch completed. So it starts with a single crochet, skip 3, 7 double crochets. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, all the way until you have 7 total. So you'll have 7 double crochets and 6 chain 1 spaces. Then you'll skip 3 and then single crochet in the 4th. And that is the repeat that we're going to be doing all the way across. So like I said, we're going to keep repeating this all the way across to create our first row of shell stitches. So we're going to skip 1, 2, 3 and create those 7 double crochets with 6 chain 1s in the 4th. So you're going to yarn over your hook, insert into that 4th stitch, grab your yarn, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Then you're going to create your chain 1, another double crochet in the same space, chain 1, 3rd double crochet in the same space, chain 1, 4th double crochet in the same space, chain 1, 5th 5th double crochet in the same space, chain 1, 6th double crochet in the same space, last chain 1, and then your final double crochet, your 7th double crochet in the same space. And then we're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to single crochet in the very last stitch of our row. So like I said, I'm just doing a sample size, so I only have 2 shells. If you're doing the extra small through small, you'll have 8 shells total. If you're doing the medium through large, you'll have 10 shells. The extra large / 2X, you'll have 13. The 3X / 4X, you'll have 15, and the 5X through 6X, you'll have 17 shells total. Now that we've completed our first row of shells, we're gonna do this, go on to the next row. And to do that, we're gonna start by chaining 4. So you're gonna chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna turn our work. And I'm going to spread this apart just so you can see. We're going to skip this first chain 1 space. So between the first and second double crochet, we're going to skip that one, and we're going to work in this second chain 1 space here. So between your second and third double crochet, you're going to insert your hook just in that space, insert it here, and we're going to create a single crochet. So you're going to grab your yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. So you're going to create a single crochet there. We're going to chain 1, create a single crochet in between your 3rd and 4th double crochet. So right here in the 3rd chain 1 space, insert your hook, create a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to work in the very next chain 1 space. So we just put a single crochet here, and we're going to put a single crochet right here in the next space. So insert your hook, create a single crochet, chain 1, and then you're going to create a single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And we're going to skip the last chain 1 space, and we're going to chain 1. But I like to make it a little loose, so I like to pull up my stitch a little bit and then create a chain 1, so it's a little bit of a longer chain 1. And then we're going to skip this chain space, we're going to skip the single crochet and this chain space. We're going to move on to our next shell, and just like we did here, we're going to skip the first chain 1 space, so between your first and second double crochet, and we're going to insert our hook into the second chain 1 space, create a single crochet, chain 1, insert into the next chain 1 space, and create a single crochet, chain 3, and then a single crochet in the very next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And you'll keep repeating that all the way across. So you're going to do your chain 1, and then you'll move on to the next shell. But if you're at the end, once you reach the end, you're going to chain 1, and then we're going to create a double crochet in the single crochet from the previous row. So in the very last stitch. So you're going to yarn over, insert into that single crochet space from the last row, and create a double crochet to end your row. And that's how the repeats will look. And the chain 3 is going to set us up for our next shell. So this is what it'll be looking like for you. And we're just going to keep repeating those same 2 rows over and over again. And I'll do the repeats with you again on camera. So to start, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to create a single crochet in the very first stitch. And we're skipping all of these stitches here, and we're going to just work in the chain 3 space to create our 7 double crochets and 6 chain 1 spaces. So that is our shell cluster. So we're going to yarn over our hook, insert into that chain 3, create a double crochet, chain 1, create your second double crochet in the chain 3 space, chain 1, third double crochet in the chain 3 space, chain 1, fourth double crochet in the chain 3 space, chain 1, fifth double crochet, chain 1, sixth double crochet. All right, your last chain 1, and last double crochet. And that's what it will look like. So our chain 3 space is here, and all of your stitches will go around that chain 3 space. And then we're going to skip these stitches here, and we're going to create a single crochet around the chain 1 from the previous row. So right here, we're going to insert into this space, go grab your yarn and create a single crochet. And we're going to skip these stitches and work into our next chain 3, creating double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, until you have a total of 7 double crochets and 6 chain 1 spaces. And you'll keep repeating that all the way across. And once we reach the end of our row, you're going to have these stitches, and then you're going to have your chain 4 from the beginning of your last row, and we're going to count 1, 2, 3, the third chain up. We're going to insert our hook there and create our final single crochet to end that row at the third chain of your chain 4 from the last row. So that's what it'll look like there. Create a single crochet in that third chain to end your row, and then we're going to move on to our next row, which is a chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn your work, and this is what your stitches should be looking like. And again, we're going to keep repeating these same 2 rows. So we're going to move on to our second row repeat, where we're going to skip this first chain 1 space, insert into the second chain 1 space, and create a single crochet. Chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space, create a single crochet. Chain 3, go into the next chain 1 space and create a single crochet. Chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space, create a single crochet, and then chain 1, a loose chain 1, and then we're going to hop on over to the next shell, skipping the first chain 1 space, working into the second chain 1 space, create a single crochet, chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, go into the next chain 1 space, create a single crochet, chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space, single crochet, and chain 1. And you'll keep repeating that all the way across. And once you come to the end, you'll have your chain 1. We're going to create a double crochet in the very last stitch, which is the single crochet from the last round. So you're going to insert your hook into that stitch, create a double crochet to end your row, and that is it. So like I said, we're going to keep doing those same 2 rows, so our shells and then our chain 3 row, and you'll keep doing that until you reach the length that I created, which is about 36 inches long, but it's a cardigan. You can make it as long or as short as you want it. So keep going until you reach the length that you like. All right, friends, this is what my back panel looks like, a full back panel. It's so large, so it's really hard to get it all into frame, but I just wanted to show you what it will look like. And we're gonna go ahead and do the ending for our back panel just to create that final edging. So to do that, once you've reached the length that you would like, you want to make sure that your last row is a shell row. So this should be your last row before we do our final edging. And to do that, it's going to be pretty similar to our second row repeat. So we're going to chain 4, turn our work, and insert into the second chain 1 space, do a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and instead of doing a chain 3, we're just going to do another chain 1, insert into the next chain 1 space, create a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, so that it just kind of creates an even edge up top instead of doing the chain 3 loop. This is to end our row here, to end our back panel. So you'll have 4 single crochets and 3 chain 1 spaces in between them, and then we're going to chain 1 and repeat the same thing over here. So insert into the second chain 1 space, create your single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next space, chain 1, single crochet in the next space, and keep doing this for all of your shells across. And then at the end, just like we end normally, we're going to chain 1 and double crochet in the very last stitch, and that creates a nice even top. And then just so it matches our bottom here, we are going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to place a single crochet in the very first stitch, and then we're going to place a single crochet in this chain 1 space here, and then a single crochet in the next stitch, a single crochet in the chain 1 space. This one's a little harder to see, so you might need to wiggle. So the chain 1 space here. So you'll be putting a single crochet in each stitch and chain 1 space. So you'll do that all the way across. And once you come to the end, you'll count your 3 chains up and then create your single crochet on that chain 3 to end, and that will give you more of a straight edge. As you can see, I mean, it has a little bit of a wave to it, but it's not as wavy as the full shell stitch, so that just creates a nice edge for us for seaming purposes. So that's how you're going to finish off your back panel of your cardigan. And once you do that, you can go ahead and cut your yarn, and we will go ahead and move on to our front panels. All right, guys, this cardigan is really simple. We just did our back panel with those 2 row repeats, and we're gonna do the same thing for our 2 front panels. You're gonna wanna create 2 of these, and I will go ahead and pop up a graphic here for you guys and just go over the graphic with you. So for the front panels, we're gonna be creating smaller rectangles. So your front panel, for example, for the medium size, the medium/large size, you'll have a total of 10 shells in your back panel. So for our front panels, we are going to have a total of 4 shells across. And that will leave us with 2 shells in the middle for our neck opening. And in this graphic, it shows you the breakdown for every size. So for extra small through small, we'll have 3 shells across. The medium large will have 4, the extra large 2X will have 5, the 3/4X will have 6, and the 5/6X will have 7. Your beginning chains, this is what you'll need to chain for each size for your front panels, but be sure that you're making 2 of these. And then you guys, after your chain, you're gonna do the same exact process that we did with our back panel. And I'll go over the process with you again. It will go a little bit faster since we just went through all of this through the back panel, but I did want to show you it's going to be the same exact process for the front panels. We're just making them a little less wide, and we're making 2 of them. So you're going to start with a slip knot, and we're going to chain the numbers that are just around the screen. You can go back, pause it, screenshot it. But if you want to follow along with the written instructions with all of the numbers and chains and stitch counts and everything that you need to know, you can grab the written pattern here, and I'll link it down below for you as well. So to start your front panel, you're going to chain the amount you need for your size. And then we're going to start with a half double crochet row. So we're going to yarn over our hook, insert into the second chain, create a half double crochet, and then you're going to half double crochet in each stitch across. And this is our first foundation row. All right, once we have our half double crochet row, we're going to chain one and turn. This is going to be our shell stitch row. So you're going to create a single crochet in the very first stitch, yarn over, skip 3 stitches, work in the 4th stitch, and this is where you're going to create your double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet until you have 7 double crochets and 6 chain 1 spaces, all in the same spot. You're going to skip 3 stitches and work in the 4th stitch, creating a single crochet. And then you're going to keep repeating that. Skip 3, shell stitch, skip 3, single crochet. Do that all the way across, and then you'll be ending with a single crochet in your very last stitch. And then to move on to the next row, for the next row repeat, you're going to chain 4, turn your work. You're going to create a single crochet in the second chain 1 space. So here's our first chain 1 space, our second chain 1 space, create a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 3, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And then you will do a loose chain 1 and go into the next shell, working in the second chain 1 space and repeating that until the end, where you'll chain 1 and create a double crochet in the very last stitch, and then repeat. So you're going to do the shell stitch, but now we're doing our shell stitch in the chain 3 space. So you're going to start with a chain 1, turn, single crochet in the first stitch, skip all of this, create your 7 double crochet, 6 chain 1 spaces in the chain 3 space. Then you would single crochet in your chain 1 space, and then go to your next chain 3 and create your shell stitches. As you can see, I'm just doing a simple size, so I don't have any more shells. But to end, you're going to create a single crochet in the 3rd chain up from your chain 4. To go to the next row, chain 4, turn your work, and keep going. So it's the same repeats. Like I said, we're just making it not as wide for our front panels. And you'll keep going until you reach the same amount of rows that you did for your back panel to make sure that they are even. Once you reach the row count that you need for your front panel so that it matches your back panel, I just wanted to give you a refresher on how we're ending. And it's going to be the same way we ended our back row for the last 2 rows. We're going to start with chain 4 and turn. Remember, you want to end with a shell stitch, and then you want to move forward your last 2 rows, which are what I'm about to show you. Again, this is exactly what we did for our back panel, and we're going to end our front panel the same exact way. We're going to single crochet in the second chain 1 space. So here's our first chain 1 space and our second. You're going to insert our hook and create a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And then we're going to chain 1 and move over to our next shell and do the same thing. We're going to go into the second chain 2 space. So here's our first one, work into the second, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. So you're going to have 4 single crochets and 3 chain 1 spaces on your shells, and you will chain 1 and move on to your next shell. And you're going to do this all the way across. And once we come to the end where we did our last single crochet, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to place a double crochet in the very last stitch, which is a single crochet from our last row. Create a double crochet there, and that's what it'll look like for you. And then we're going to do our final row, which is going to be single crochets. So you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then we're going to single crochet across. So we're going to single crochet in this very first stitch, single crochet in the chain 1 space, and then single crochet in the next stitch, which would be the single crochet from the last row. So you're going to single crochet there, and then that chain 1 space between, you're going to place your hook there and create a single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the chain 1 space. So you're going to keep doing that where you're single crocheting in every stitch and chain 1 space all the way across. And this is going to be our final row. And be sure that you're placing a single crochet in the chain 1 space between your shell stitches, so right here. But just keep doing that, single crochet every stitch and chain 1 space across. Once we come to the end, we're going to single crochet, because technically there's a chain 1 space here at the very end, and then we're going to do a single crochet at the top of the chain 3 here, and that is going to end our row. And that is the finishing 2 rows for our top panels. And make sure you're just repeating this all so that you have 2 panels. And once you're done, I like to leave like 10 to 12 inches of yarn before I cut. And I like to act like I'm chaining 1, but pull my yarn all the way through to secure it. And now my front panel is finished. And you like to leave a long tail like this so that we can use this to seam the width of our front panel to our back panel. So a good thing to do is to make sure this extra is at least twice the length of the width of your front panel. So that's a good way to measure as well. But once you do that, you're finished with your front panel. Repeat for your second front panel, and we will meet back here to seam it all together and complete your cardigan. All right, now that we have all 3 of our pieces done, our 2 front panels and our back panel, we are going to seam it all together. This is where you're going to need your yarn needle. And it's going to be a little difficult to put the entire cardigan in frame. So for reference, this is my upper top left corner of my back panel, and you're going to want to lay your back panel flat, and you're going to take one of your front panels. You want to make sure that your stitches are all facing the same way, so these are facing upward. So this is them facing upward, and this is them facing downward, just for reference. So you want to make sure that they're the same way. This is one of my front panels, and this is the top edging where we did single crochet. Our bottom edging is where we did the half double crochet where we started our cardigan. So we want to make sure that's at the bottom, and our top is at the top. And what we're going to do is take our front panel, lay it on top of our back panel, and we're going to line up our corners. So my top left corner of my front panel and my top left corner of my back panel, I'm going to hold them together right here at the edge, and I'm going to line it up and make sure that they're just even. And I'm going to take that long tail that I left on my front panel, and I'm going to grab my yarn needle and thread my yarn through my needle. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pick mine up just so you can see easier. I want to make sure that these sides are lined up. And I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to go in on the very first stitch. This is my front panel, and then I want to make sure I'm going through this very same first stitch here of my back panel, put it through both pieces, and then I'm just going to pull it through. And I'm going to do the same thing stitch for stitch all the way down. So my second stitch going through my front panel and my back panel and pulling through. I always put my yarn needle through the same way, so I'm coming in through the front and going through both pieces towards the back, and you'll keep doing that. This is just called a whip stitch. You want to make sure you're going through both sides, lining it up stitch for stitch, and doing it all the way until we get to the other corner of our front panel. And because our front panels are not as wide as our back panel, it comes from here to here. I'm making the medium large size, so it's gonna stop here, and then we have the rest of our panel here where back panel. So we're gonna keep stitching stitch for stitch until we get to the end of our front panel. All right, we're coming up on the last stitch here. I just want to make sure that I show it on camera so it's kind of off to the edge. And once we put it through our last stitch, now our pieces are joined, and this is going to be our shoulder seam on the left side. And now that piece is on there, we're going to finish off. I like to create a knot and pull it down to the base as close as I can get, just to secure it, and then you'll still have a bit of a yarn tail left. What I like to do is weave in this little bit of a tail into my work. So once I created my knot, I'm going to go through with my needle and go through stitches this way and pull that tail through. Keep it on your needle, and then go in the opposite direction, going through other stitches. And you can do this a few times, going in a few different directions just to hide your end in. And then once it's weaved in pretty good, you can cut it, wiggle your yarn around a bit to really hide it in there. And now your yarn tail is weaved in and our first shoulder seam is created. So we're gonna do the same thing for the right side. This is the top right of my back panel. I'm gonna grab my second front panel. Again, you wanna make sure that your stitches are facing the same way. So my back panel stitches are facing up, so I want to make sure that my front panels are facing up like this. And then again, you have your yarn tail, your long yarn tail left over from when you fastened off on your other panel, and you're going to do the same thing, thread it through your yarn needle. All right, and just like we did last time, we're going to line up. This is my top right corner of my front panel, and I'm going to line it up to the top right corner of my back panel, and then line up the stitches, both the corner stitches, go through both, and do the same exact thing that we just did, lining it up stitch for stitch. And just like last time, when you get to the end, create a little knot and then weave in whatever tail you have left of that yarn, and just weave it into your work. Like I said, I like to go into a few different directions. I go through a few stitches one way, pull it through, and then go through other stitches in a different direction, and just do that a few times until everything is hidden, and cut your yarn. And now your second front panel is attached. All right, so now that we have our shoulder seams done, we are going to move on to our side seams, where we're going to leave a hole up top here for our arms. So you're going to want to grab your measuring tape, and you can use a scrap piece of yarn and your crochet hook, or a stitch marker if you have one, but just a scrap piece of yarn will work. Make your armholes as big as you want them. If you like really big, open, long ones, you can make them just as long as you want. But here are the inches that I have set for each size. I'll put them up on the screen now for you. But what you're going to want to do is start from your shoulder seam here at the very top. That's where we're going to put the top of our tape measure, and we're going to measure downward. So for the size that I'm making, I'm going down to 9 inches. Sorry guys, it's hard to see. I wanted to make sure that you knew where I was starting. So where it says 9 inches, for the size that I'm making, I'm going to grab my crochet hook, and it doesn't have to be exact, you guys. it's just an approximate so that we're leaving enough room for our armholes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our hook there and take that, oops, sorry. And I put our hook there, take our scrap yarn and pull it through just one side through. And then you can kind of tie it loosely just so you know that's where your stopping point is. Or if you have a stitch marker, you can put it there. But that's where you're gonna measure from the top of your shoulder seam downward. And like I said, you can make this as long as you want. I know a lot of people like the big drapey arm openings, and that's totally fine. So whatever your preference is, just make sure that you're marking it so you know when to stop seaming. And once you measure the left side, you're gonna wanna do the same thing and use the same measurements for your right side, starting at the top of your shoulder seam down, and make sure that both your pieces are lined up on the edge there, and create your markings, your stopping point on your right side as well. All right, I have mine turned sideways just so I can show you guys better. But what you're gonna wanna do is cut off a piece of yarn the same color that you were using for your project, and go from the part where you have your stitch marker or your extra piece of yarn and measure until the end of your cardigan, and make sure the length of your yarn is twice that length. And once you cut your yarn, you're going to thread it in your yarn needle. Sorry guys, I always have to do that off camera because it's really hard to see through the camera lens there. So once you thread it, you're gonna go to the other end and create a double knot, leaving a little bit of excess tail because you're gonna wanna seam that in later. You're gonna weave that in later. So we'll create a double knot, and I like to start at the very bottom edge, working our way up to where our stitch marker is. So again, lining up edge for edge. So this is the bottom left corner of my back panel and the bottom left corner of my front panel. And I'm gonna line them up, and I'm gonna take my needle and insert, going through both. And it's the same method that we did for our shoulder seams. We're just lining up our side seams. And once I get to my knot, I like to, if it still goes through your work, you can take that tail that you left and create a knot there to secure it. And all of these ends that we have in, we're gonna weave those into our work after this. So don't worry about those right now. But this is a little trickier since we don't have stitch for stitch, because this is the edge of our work. So it might be a little harder, but you just want to make sure that they're lined up as best as you can and go through the same spaces. Like I said, since there's no actual, like there's not a single crochet on both sides, these are our chains from the beginning and endings of our rows. So it's a little different, but just line it up as best as you can. That's why I like to start with the corners, so I know that they're lined up, and then just keep going, keeping an even space in between each stitch. So I like to go through here and then halfway up, and then keep doing that until you get to your stitch marker. All right, and once we come up to where we put our scrap yarn, or where you had your stitch marker if you had one, we're gonna create our last stitch here. And that's right before my stitch marker. So just like before, I'm gonna create a knot. And I have a lot of excess yarn here, so I'm just gonna cut off, and then I'm going to remove my yarn where I put my placer. Just gonna take that off because we don't need to weave those in, so we can just take that out. Now that we've seamed up to that point, we have our knot. You're going to weave in this tail, and then you're going to go to the other end. You're going to go to your right side and do the same thing. Line up your front panel corner and your back panel corner, and seam up that side up to your stitch marker on that side. And then any other little ends that you see, like here I have an end, you're gonna just wanna, whatever ones you find of these, you're just gonna wanna weave them in, and then you will be all done with your project. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for all my future crochet and knit tutorials.